At a crowded diner, a waitress moved non-stop from table to table, serving everyone with such skill that every customer smiled at her. But suddenly, the manager stormed out, yelling, insulting her, and firing her right in the middle of the dining room. Everyone froze in shock when they discovered she had hidden her sick little boy in the storage room because she had no one else to watch him. What no one knew was that a quiet man in the corner had witnessed the entire scene. And a few days later, when he returned with his true identity, that waitress's life would change completely. Before we go back, let us know where you're watching from. And subscribe because tomorrow I've got something extra special for you. The rain hit the windows of Harborview Diner like bullets. It was 7:30 a.m. and the place was packed. Construction workers grabbing coffee, nurses coming off night shifts, retirees reading newspapers over bacon and eggs. Benjamin Hayes sat in the corner booth, hunched over a chipped mug. His denim jacket was soaked. His hair was messy. The cheap watch on his wrist said $29.99 at Walmart, but the man wearing it was worth $340 million. Nobody knew. He'd driven 3 hours in the rain to get here. No assistant, no driver, just him and a rental sedan that smelled like cigarette smoke. He wanted to see what was really happening at this location, the one bleeding employees like a wound that wouldn't close. The door to the kitchen swung open. A woman emerged carrying 3 plates balanced on her arms like she'd done it 1,000 times. Dark skin, late 20s, hair pulled back tight. Her name tag read Lila J. Her uniform was faded but spotless. She moved fast, dropping off pancakes at table 4, refilling coffee at table 6, smiling at the elderly couple who'd just changed their order for the 3rd time. "No problem at all, Mr. Davis. I'll get that fixed right up." Benjamin watched her work. Efficient, no wasted motion. She never wrote anything down, just remembered everything. When a trucker's plate came out wrong, she handled it before he could complain. When a kid knocked over orange juice, she had it cleaned up in 30 seconds. But something was off. Every few minutes, she'd glance toward the back. Her eyes would dart to the storage room door, then back to her tables. Her smile stayed on, but her shoulders were tight. She checked her phone. Her face went pale. "Jess, can you cover my section for just a minute?" she whispered to another server. "Again?" Jessica rolled her eyes. "That's like the 3rd time this morning." "Please, I need 1 minute." Lila disappeared into the storage room. Benjamin frowned. He'd seen employees steal before, seen them hide in back rooms to text, seen them take smoke breaks that lasted 20 minutes. But this didn't look like any of that. This looked like fear. 5 minutes passed. Lila came back out, moving even faster now. She was serving, smiling, taking orders, but her hands were shaking slightly when she set down the coffee pot. Benjamin leaned back in his booth, about to signal for his check. Then the kitchen door slammed open. "Johnson!" The entire diner went silent. A man stormed out, mid-40s, polo shirt stretched over a beer gut, face red with anger. His name tag said C. Donovan, manager. "Lila Johnson, you get out here right now!" Lila froze in the middle of the floor, a tray in her hands. "Craig, I don't want to hear it." He jabbed his finger toward her. "You think I'm stupid? You think I don't know what you've been doing?" Every customer in the diner was staring now. Forks stopped mid-bite. Conversations died. Lila's voice dropped to barely a whisper. "Please, can we talk in the back?" "No." Craig's voice got louder. "We're gonna talk right here so everyone knows what kind of employee you really are." He marched toward the storage room and threw the door open. Benjamin couldn't see what was inside from where he sat, but he saw Lila's face crumble. "You turned my storage room into a goddamn daycare," Craig shouted. "Get in here, now!" Lila set down the tray with trembling hands and walked toward the back. Benjamin stood up, moving closer. Inside the storage room, wedged between boxes of napkins and industrial ketchup bottles, was a child. A little boy, maybe 4 years old, curled up on a pile of server aprons. His face was flushed with fever. His eyes were half closed. He was clutching a broken toy car. "Micah, baby, it's okay." Lila reached for him. Craig blocked her. "Don't you dare pick him up." "Do you have any idea how many health code violations this is? Do you know what happens if the health inspector walks in and sees a sick kid in a food storage area? His daycare wouldn't take him." Lila's voice cracked. "He has a fever. They said I had to keep him home, but if I call out again, you said 3 absences and I'm..." So you brought him here? Craig threw his hands up. You put everyone in this building at risk because you couldn't find a babysitter? I didn't have a choice. There's always a choice, Lila. You could have stayed home. You could have called in sick. But no, you decided to hide your kid in my storage room and expose my customers to whatever germs he's got. Benjamin felt his jaw tighten. He'd seen a lot of bad managers in his 20 years running diners. But this was something else. Lila's hands were shaking. Craig, please, just let me finish my shift. I need today's pay. I need to buy his medicine. You should have thought of that before you broke every rule we have. I'll take him home right now. I won't ask for the hours. Just please don't. You're done. Craig crossed his arms. Effective immediately. Clean out your locker and get out. The words hit like a slap. Lila's face went blank. You're firing me? You're damn right I am. You've been nothing but problems since day one. Late shifts, constant requests for time off, and now this? He gestured at Micah. I don't care what sob story you've got. This is a business, not a charity. Please. Lila's voice broke. I'm begging you. I'll work a double tomorrow. I'll take the overnight shift nobody wants. Just don't. You've got 5 minutes to get your stuff and leave. If you're not gone by then, I'm calling the cops for trespassing. Lila stood there, frozen. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. Then she bent down and picked up Micah. The little boy wrapped his thin arms around her neck and coughed. A dry, rattling sound that made everyone in earshot wince. She didn't say another word, didn't argue, didn't cry. She just walked through the diner with her son in her arms, grabbed her purse from behind the counter, and headed for the door. No coat, no umbrella, nothing. The rain was still coming down in sheets. Benjamin watched through the window as Lila stepped outside. Within seconds, she was soaked. Micah buried his burning face against her shoulder. She wrapped her arms tighter around him and started walking down the street, disappearing into the downpour. The diner stayed quiet for a moment. Then, slowly, the conversation started again. Forks scraped plates. Coffee cups clinked. Craig dusted off his hands like he'd just taken out the trash. All right, folks, show's over. Jess, you're covering her section. Let's get back to work. Benjamin sat back down in his booth. His coffee had gone cold. His hands were gripping the edge of the table so hard, his knuckles turned white. He stared out the window at the rain, at the empty street where Lila had vanished. His chest felt tight, like something inside him had cracked open. A memory he'd spent decades trying to bury clawed its way back to the surface. A different rainy morning, a different city, a 10-year-old boy watching his mother beg for just one more chance, just one more day of work, while a man in a suit told her she wasn't worth the trouble. Benjamin closed his eyes. When he opened them again, his face was blank, unreadable. He stood up, dropped a 20 on the table, and walked out into the rain without looking back. Benjamin Hayes walked back to his rental car, rain soaking through his cheap jacket. He sat behind the wheel for a long time, not turning on the engine, just staring at the diner through the water-streaked windshield. Nobody inside knew who he was. Not the manager who'd just destroyed a woman's life in front of a crowd. Not the customers who'd watched it happen and then gone back to their eggs. Not even Lila Johnson, the woman now walking through the storm with her sick child, had any idea that the quiet man in the corner booth was Benjamin Hayes, founder and CEO of Hayes Family Dining Group, owner of 24 diners across 4 states, including the one she'd just been thrown out of. Worth $340 million, dressed like he didn't have $40 to his name. Why was he here? Why had a man who could buy any restaurant in the city chosen to sit in a cracked vinyl booth, drinking burnt coffee, watching servers scramble through the morning rush? 3 days earlier, Benjamin Hayes stood in his corner office on the 14th floor, staring at a spreadsheet on his monitor. The numbers didn't add up. "Explain this again," he said. Monica Reed, his operations director, pulled up another file. "Harborview Diner, Tampa. In the last 6 months, we've lost 18 employees. The location only has 24 total staff." Benjamin leaned back in his chair. 18 out of 24. "Yes, sir. That's a 75% turnover rate." He rubbed his face. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows behind him, downtown Tampa stretched out under a clear blue sky. His office was all glass and steel, polished, modern, expensive. Nothing like the places he came from. "What do the exit interviews say?" he asked. Monica scrolled through her tablet. Most people don't do exit interviews. They just disappear, stop showing up. The ones who did talk mentioned things like hostile environment, unfair scheduling, no management support. Who's the manager there? Craig Donovan. He's been at Harborview for 4 years. She paused. Before that, he was at our Clearwater location for 18 months. Before that, Fort Myers for a year. Before that, Benjamin held up his hand. How many times has this guy been transferred? 5 locations in 6 years. And nobody's fired him yet because he meets sales targets, health inspections pass, on paper, everything looks fine. Benjamin stood and walked to the window. 24 diners across 4 states. He'd built Hayes Family Dining Group from nothing, brick by brick, and he'd built it on one principle: take care of your people first, and the business takes care of itself. But somewhere along the line, that message got buried under quarterly reports and profit margins. I need to see it for myself, he said quietly. Monica looked up. We can send an HR audit team. I can go down there personally. No. Benjamin turned around. The second I show up as the owner, everyone puts on a show. They smile, they follow procedure, they tell me exactly what I want to hear. I need to see what really happens when nobody thinks the boss is watching. Monica studied him. She'd worked for Benjamin for 8 years. She knew that tone, the one that meant his mind was already made up. When do you want to go? This weekend, Saturday morning rush. Benjamin Hayes was 52 years old, founder and CEO of a restaurant group worth over $100 million, but he hadn't started in a corner office. He'd started in the back seat of a car. Atlanta, 1983. Benjamin was 10 years old. His father had walked out 2 years earlier, just left one day and never came back. His mother Evelyn worked 3 jobs trying to keep them housed, cleaning office buildings at night, waiting tables during the day, doing neighbors' laundry on weekends. She worked herself to exhaustion, and it still wasn't enough. They got evicted from their apartment when Benjamin was in 4th grade. His mother packed everything they owned into garbage bags and loaded them into their beat-up Chevy sedan. That car became their home. They'd park behind a diner called Green's Place, tucked in an alley where they hoped nobody would notice. Every morning, his mother would wake up at 5, use the gas station bathroom down the street to wash up and change clothes, then spend the day looking for work that paid more than minimum wage. Benjamin would stay in the car doing homework by flashlight, eating dry cereal because milk was too expensive, and they had no refrigerator. He remembered the cold, the way his breath fogged up the windows, the way his stomach always felt empty, the way his mother would come back to the car at night and just sit there crying quietly, thinking he was asleep. One morning, the owner of the diner found them. Thomas Green was a big man, ex-Navy, late 50s, gray beard, weathered face. Benjamin remembered the terror when he knocked on the car window that rainy morning. His mother rolled down the window, already apologizing, already preparing to beg. "You been sleeping here?" Thomas asked. "I'm sorry," his mother said, voice shaking. "We'll leave right now. Please don't call the police. Please, my son." Thomas just stood there in the rain, looking at the two of them, at the garbage bags stuffed with clothes, at the 10-year-old boy trying to make himself invisible in the back seat. "You know how to wash dishes?" Thomas asked. His mother blinked. "What?" "I need someone in the kitchen. Day shift. Starts at 6. $8 an hour, and you can eat whatever's left over at the end of your shift." He gestured toward the building. "There's a storage room upstairs. It's got a cot, a space heater, and a bathroom. Not fancy, but it's dry and it's warm." Benjamin's mother couldn't speak. Tears started running down her face. Thomas pulled out a set of keys and handed them through the window. "You start tomorrow morning. Get your boy enrolled in school. There's a decent elementary school 3 blocks from here." I don't know what to say." "Don't say anything. Just show up on time and work hard." Thomas looked at Benjamin. "You stay out of trouble, do your homework, and don't make a mess. We got a deal, son." Benjamin nodded, unable to find his voice. That afternoon, they moved into the storage room above Green's place. It wasn't much. A cot, a space heater, a small bathroom with a shower, but it was the first time in months that Benjamin slept somewhere warm. His mother worked at that diner for 6 years, washing dishes, then cooking, then managing the morning shift. Thomas paid for Benjamin's school supplies, let him do homework at a corner table, fed him breakfast and dinner every single day. When Benjamin was 17 and got a full scholarship to the University of Florida, Thomas pulled him aside on his last day. "You're gonna do good things, Ben. I can see it. I don't know how to thank you, Mr. Green, for everything you did for us. Thomas shook his head. You thank me by remembering something. People don't fail because they're lazy. They fail because nobody ever gave them a real chance. He put a hand on Benjamin's shoulder. When you make it, and you will, you remember that. You give people a real chance. Benjamin never forgot those words. Now, 35 years later, standing in his Tampa office with reports about Craig Donovan and Harborview Diner spread across his desk, those words echoed in his head. People don't fail because they're lazy. They fail because nobody ever gave them a real chance. 18 employees had left Harborview in 6 months. How many of them were like his mother? How many were barely surviving, one missed paycheck away from losing everything? And how many had been pushed out by a manager who treated people like they were disposable? Benjamin picked up his phone and called Monica. Book me a room at a cheap hotel near Harborview. And I need a rental car. Something old, nothing fancy. You're really going undercover? I am. He hung up and opened his closet. In the back, behind his tailored suits, was an old denim jacket from his college days. Worn, faded, the kind of jacket a man wore when he couldn't afford anything better. He pulled it out and held it in his hands. If you want to know the truth about a company, he thought, you look at how it treats the people at the bottom. Saturday morning, he'd see Harborview the way Thomas Green had seen him and his mother all those years ago, not as numbers on a spreadsheet, but as real people just trying to survive. Back to the present, Benjamin drove back to his hotel in silence, the windshield wipers beating a steady rhythm against the rain. He couldn't stop seeing it. The way Lila had frozen when Craig shouted her name across that diner floor. The way every fork had stopped mid-bite. Every conversation dying as customers turned to watch. She'd been serving them seconds before, refilling coffee, smiling, making sure everyone was taken care of. And then suddenly, she was the entertainment, the spectacle. He gripped the steering wheel tighter, remembering the look on her face when Craig dragged her to that storage room. Not anger, not defiance, just quiet devastation, like she'd known this was coming and had been dreading it anyway. And that little boy, Micah, burning with fever, clutching that broken toy car, too sick to even understand why his mother was being yelled at. Benjamin pulled into the hotel parking lot, but didn't get out. He just sat there, engine running, staring at nothing. He'd watched the whole thing unfold, watched Craig perform his little power play in front of a captive audience, watched the other employees look away, pretending they hadn't seen anything, watched the customers go back to their eggs and bacon like a woman's life hadn't just been destroyed in front of them. And he'd watched Lila walk out into that rain with her sick child in her arms, no coat, no umbrella, heading God knows where. The image burned in his mind, her uniform soaked through within seconds. Micah's small body pressed against her shoulder, her back straight, even as the storm tried to break her. She hadn't screamed at Craig, hadn't made a scene, hadn't begged in front of everyone. She'd just endured it, like she'd endured everything else life had thrown at her. Benjamin thought about the way she'd worked that morning before everything fell apart. Fast, efficient, never flustered. She'd handled 6 or 7 tables at once, remembered every order without writing anything down, diffused a complaint from that trucker before it escalated, cleaned up spilled juice without missing a beat. That wasn't someone just going through the motions. That was someone who knew how to work, who cared about doing the job right. And Craig had treated her like garbage. Benjamin finally turned off the engine and went up to his room. He tossed his wet jacket on the chair, poured himself a glass of water, and sat down at the small desk. His laptop was already open to the Harborview reports, the turnover numbers, the complaints, the pattern of failures. But now he wasn't seeing spreadsheets. He was seeing Lila's face, the way her hands had trembled when she'd begged for just one more shift, the way she'd held her son close, protecting him even as her own world collapsed. I need today's pay. I need to buy his medicine. That's what she'd said. Not I want, not I deserve. Just I need. Benjamin had built his entire company on the idea that good people shouldn't have to beg for basic dignity, that hard work should be rewarded, not punished, that managers should lift employees up, not grind them down. And somehow, despite all of that, Craig Donovan had been allowed to turn Harborview into exactly the kind of place Benjamin had sworn he'd never create. He picked up his phone. He needed to know more. needed to understand who Lila Johnson really was beneath the desperation and exhaustion, because something told him, the way she carried herself, the way she worked, the way she'd held on to her dignity even in her worst moment, that there was more to her story than what he'd seen today. Benjamin pulled up Monica's contact and hit call. When she answered, he didn't waste time with pleasantries. "I need you to pull an employee file for me. Lila Johnson, Harborview Diner." Monica's voice was groggy. "It's almost midnight." "I know, I need it now." 20 minutes later, his email pinged. Benjamin opened the attachment and started reading. The first page was standard HR information: name, date of birth, social security number, nothing unusual. Then he got to the education section and stopped cold. University of Florida, Bachelor of Science in Business Administration, graduated 2018, GPA 3.7, magna cum laude. Benjamin stared at the words. Business degree, honors graduate, from a good school. What the hell was she doing serving pancakes at Harborview for $5.50 an hour? He scrolled down to her work history. In 2018, right after graduation, she'd been hired as an operations coordinator at Meridian Logistics in Tampa. The manager's notes from that job made his chest tighten. Natural leadership qualities, strong analytical skills, employee shows significant potential for management track. Then there was a gap. 2 years with nothing listed, just a single line, family medical emergency. Benjamin had seen enough employee files to know what that phrase usually meant. Something bad, something that derailed everything. He kept scrolling and found a scanned document buried in the background check section. It was a death certificate. Aaron James Johnson. Date of death, November 12, 2020. Age, 30. Cause, pancreatic cancer. Benjamin's hand froze on the mouse. Her husband, dead at 30 years old. He did the math in his head. Lila would have been 24. Micah couldn't have been more than a year old, maybe less. She'd lost her husband while raising an infant. The financial section of the file came next, and it got worse with every line. Medical bills, $47,328. Credit cards, $8,942. Personal loans, $3,200. Her car had been repossessed 9 months ago. Her savings account showed a balance of $127.83. Benjamin rubbed his face, feeling sick. She was living at West River Apartments, a complex he'd seen mentioned in the local news for code violations, and a landlord under investigation for unsafe conditions, the kind of place where the heat barely worked and the locks didn't always hold. And still, she'd shown up to work every single day for 8 months, never late, never complained, smiled at customers, memorized orders, handled difficult situations with grace. He pulled up her attendance records at Harborview. Perfect. Not a single absence until 3 days ago, when daycare had refused to take Micah because of his fever. Craig's notes were in the file too, and they made Benjamin's blood boil. Employee requested schedule adjustment for childcare needs. Request denied. Company cannot accommodate personal issues. Employee requested paycheck advance for medical expenses. Denied per company policy. Employee called out sick 9/14. Official written warning issued. Employee informed that 2 additional absences will result in immediate termination. She hadn't been asking for handouts. She'd been asking for help while she was drowning, and Craig had tied weights to her ankles instead. Benjamin clicked back to her original job application from January. Under the question, "Why do you want to work here?" she'd written in careful, neat handwriting, "I am a single mother seeking stable employment to provide for my 4-year-old son. I am hardworking, reliable, and deeply committed to delivering excellent customer service. I have prior management experience and would welcome any opportunity to grow with your organization. Management experience, a business degree, excellent recommendations from her previous employer, and Craig Donovan had stuck her on the floor serving coffee and ignored everything she could have contributed." Benjamin opened a new browser tab and searched for Meridian Logistics. The result came back immediately. Company status, permanently closed. May 21. The company had folded. She'd lost her job through no fault of her own, right when her husband was dying. Then she'd spent 2 years buried under medical debt and funeral expenses, taking whatever work she could find. Retail, cleaning services, grocery store cashier. The resume showed the pattern clearly. Desperate scrambling, never staying anywhere long enough because the pay was never quite enough to keep up with the bills. She was caught in the trap that Benjamin had seen destroy so many people, working full-time but still sinking, making just enough to survive this week, but never enough to fix next month's crisis. This was exactly what Thomas Green had saved him and his mother from. And Benjamin had built an entire company supposedly dedicated to preventing this exact thing from happening to people. But here was Lila Johnson, smart, capable, qualified, and his own system had failed her. Had let Craig Donovan treat her like she was disposable, had let her work herself to exhaustion while her son got sicker and her debts piled higher. His phone rang. Monica. "You get the file?" she asked. "Yeah." Benjamin's voice was rough. "I got it. So what do you want to do?" Benjamin looked at the employee photo clipped to Lila's file. She was smiling in the picture, but it was the kind of smile that came from practice, not happiness. The smile of someone who'd learned to hide how exhausted they were, how scared. "I need her phone number," he said. There was a pause. "Benjamin. She has a business degree from UF Monica, graduated with honors. She has management experience. She has skills we desperately need." His voice got harder. "And we've been wasting her for 8 months while Craig Donovan ran that location into the ground. What are you planning?" Benjamin thought about Thomas Green knocking on the window of that Chevy sedan 35 years ago. Thought about the keys he'd handed over without asking for anything in return except hard work. People don't fail because they're lazy. They fail because nobody ever gave them a real chance. "Get me her number," Benjamin said, "and clear my schedule for tomorrow afternoon. I'm going to offer her a job." "What kind of job?" "The kind she should have had from the beginning." Benjamin closed the laptop and stood up. "The kind that gives her a real shot at getting out of that hole." He walked to the window and looked out at the dark streets of Tampa. Somewhere out there, Lila was probably sitting in that unsafe apartment, trying to bring down Micah's fever with whatever medicine she could afford, wondering how she was going to pay rent this month now that she'd been fired. She didn't know it yet, but tomorrow, everything was going to change. Not because Benjamin felt sorry for her, but because she'd earned it. The next afternoon, Lila's phone rang with a number she didn't recognize. She almost didn't answer. Bill collectors had her number, so did automated scam calls. But Micah was finally sleeping, fever down to 100 after she'd spent her last $20 on children's Tylenol, and she needed any distraction from the panic clawing at her chest. "Hello?" "Ms. Johnson, this is Benjamin Hayes." The name meant nothing to her. "I'm sorry, who?" "I was at Harborview Diner yesterday morning. I saw what happened with Craig Donovan." A pause. "I'd like to meet with you if you have time, this afternoon if possible." Lila's stomach dropped. Great. Someone who'd witnessed her humiliation wanted to what? Offer sympathy? Tell her she should sue? She didn't have energy for this. "Look, I appreciate the call, but I'm dealing with a lot right now." "I'm the owner of Hayes Family Dining Group," Benjamin said. "Harborview is one of my locations. And I fired Craig Donovan yesterday afternoon." Lila stopped breathing. "You're what?" "The owner. I'd like to talk to you about what happened, and about a job opportunity." His voice was calm, matter of fact. "Could you meet me at Harborview at 4 o'clock? The diner will be slow then. We can talk privately." Lila looked at Micah asleep on the couch, his small chest rising and falling. Her sister couldn't watch him. She was 3 states away in Texas. Her neighbor was at work. She'd have to bring him. "I don't have childcare," she said quietly. "Bring your son, that's not a problem." 20 minutes later, Lila was walking back into Harborview Diner with Micah on her hip, feeling like she was stepping into a nightmare she'd already lived. The afternoon shift was sparse, just a few tables occupied. Jessica was behind the counter and did a double take when she saw Lila walk in. "What are you doing here?" Jessica's voice was pure shock. "I'm meeting someone." A man stood up from a corner booth, mid-50s, wearing jeans and a button-down shirt. He looked different than she remembered from yesterday. Cleaner, more put together, but she recognized his face. The quiet customer who'd been sitting in her section. "Ms. Johnson." He extended his hand. "Benjamin Hayes. Thank you for coming." Lila shook his hand warily, shifting Micah's weight. "You're really the owner?" "I am. Please, sit." She slid into the booth across from him, settling Micah beside her. The little boy was drowsy but awake, clutching his broken toy car. Benjamin didn't waste time. First, I want to apologize for what Craig did to you. That was unacceptable, and it violated everything my company is supposed to stand for. Lila's throat tightened. You fired him? Yesterday, immediately after you left. Benjamin's voice was steady. He had a pattern of behavior across multiple locations. 18 employees quit from this diner alone in the last 6 months. That's not normal turnover. That's a toxic manager driving good people away. Lila looked down at the table. I needed that job. I know, that's why I wanted to meet with you. Benjamin slid a folder across the table. I pulled your employment file last night. Your full file. Not just what you put on the Harbor View application. Lila's head snapped up. My file? University of Florida, business degree, magna cum laude. Operations coordinator at Meridian Logistics with excellent performance reviews. Benjamin's eyes were direct, not unkind. You're overqualified to be serving tables, Ms. Johnson, so I need to understand, why were you working here? Heat crept up Lila's neck. The shame of it, having to explain how far she'd fallen. Meridian closed in 21, she said quietly. I'd been there 3 years. They went bankrupt, laid everyone off. She paused. My husband was sick, pancreatic cancer. He died 6 months after I lost that job. Benjamin nodded slowly. I saw the death certificate in your background check. I'm sorry. We had some savings, but medical bills ate through everything. Insurance didn't cover half of it. Lila's voice was flat now, reciting facts she'd lived with for years. I spent 2 years taking whatever work I could find. Retail, cleaning offices, grocery stores. Every job paid just enough to keep the lights on, but not enough to dig out of the hole. And now you're $47,000 in medical debt. Lila flinched. Hearing it said out loud by a stranger made it worse somehow. Yes. Micah shifted against her, and she automatically smoothed his hair back, checking his forehead with her palm. Still warm, but better than yesterday. Benjamin watched the gesture. How old is your son? 4. What happened yesterday morning? With the daycare refusing to take him, that's not the first time you've had to choose between work and taking care of him, is it? Lila's jaw tightened. No, but I've never brought him to work before. I didn't have a choice. His fever spiked overnight, and daycare said they couldn't take him until he'd been fever-free for 24 hours. I'd already called out twice this month when he was sick. Craig warned me that 3 absences would mean termination. She looked up. So I hid him in the storage room and prayed he'd sleep through my shift. That shouldn't have been your only option. Well, it was. The bitterness crept into her voice before she could stop it. I asked Craig for a schedule change when Micah started preschool. He said no. I asked if I could swap shifts with someone when Micah's daycare changed their hours. He said company policy didn't allow it. I even asked for an advance on my paycheck once when Micah needed antibiotics, and I was 3 days from payday. Also no. Benjamin's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Craig documented all of those requests in your file and denied every single one. Of course he did. Lila's hands curled into fists on the table. Look, Mr. Hayes, I appreciate you firing him. I really do. But if you're here to offer me my job back, I won't put Micah through that again. I need something stable. Something where I'm not terrified every single day that one sick kid will cost me everything. I'm not offering you your old job back. Lila blinked. Then why am I here? Benjamin leaned forward. Because I think you're exactly the kind of person who could fix what's broken at Harborview, and I'd like to offer you a position as assistant manager. The words hung in the air between them. Lila stared at him. You're joking. I'm not. You want to make me assistant manager? Of this place. Her voice rose slightly. I just got fired yesterday for hiding my kid in the storage room. You got fired by a manager who had no business being in that position. Benjamin pulled a paper from the folder. Here's what I'm offering. Assistant manager position, salary $40,000 a year, full benefits including health, dental, and vision. Paid time off, 15 days to start. And access to our Employee Relief Fund, which provides emergency assistance for housing, medical expenses, and childcare. Lila's breath caught. $40,000 benefits. She'd been making maybe $22,000 at Harborview with tips, and that was working herself into the ground. Why? The word came out sharper than she intended. You don't know me. You watched me get humiliated and fired. Why would you offer me this?" Benjamin was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "When I was 10 years old, my mother and I lived in our car for 3 months. We parked behind a diner in Atlanta. The owner found us one morning. We thought we were about to be arrested. Instead, he gave my mother a job washing dishes and let us live in his storage room." Lila's eyes widened. "His name was Thomas Green," Benjamin continued. "He told me something I never forgot. People don't fail because they're lazy. They fail because nobody ever gave them a real chance." He looked at Lila directly. "You have a business degree. You have management experience. You have skills this company desperately needs. But you've been trapped in survival mode so long that nobody's bothered to look past it." "I don't understand." Lila's voice shook. "You're doing this because you feel sorry for me." "No, I'm doing this because I watched you work yesterday morning before everything fell apart. I saw you handle 6 tables at once without breaking a sweat. I saw you diffuse an angry customer before it became a problem. I saw you remember every order, every preference, without writing anything down." Benjamin tapped the folder. "And then I read your file and realized we've been wasting you." Craig Donovan was so focused on controlling people that he missed what was right in front of him, someone who could actually help run this place the right way. Lila looked down at Micah, who was doodling on a napkin with a crayon someone had left on the table. Her mind was racing. $40,000 a year. Health insurance. Real health insurance. Not the stripped-down plan that covered almost nothing. Paid time off, which she hadn't had since Meridian. Childcare assistance. It sounded too good. Things that sounded too good were usually traps. "What do you want in return?" she asked carefully. Benjamin didn't hesitate. "I want you to help me fix Harborview. The turnover here is killing us. Employee morale is in the basement. Customer complaints are up. This location is bleeding money because Craig drove away everyone who gave a damn." He paused. "I think you can turn it around, but I need someone who understands what it's like to work these jobs. Someone who knows what actually makes a difference to the people on the floor. And if I fail, then we reassess, but I don't think you will." Lila studied his face, looking for the catch. "I have a 4-year-old son who gets sick, who needs doctor's appointments, who has school events during work hours sometimes. The Employee Relief Fund includes subsidized childcare through a network of local providers, flexible scheduling when you need it, and I'm not going to penalize you for being a parent." Benjamin's voice was firm. "That's the whole point, Ms. Johnson. I don't want people working for me who have to choose between their job and their kid. That's not the kind of company I built." Lila's eyes stung. She blinked hard, refusing to cry in front of this man. "I don't know what to say." "Say you'll think about it. Take a day or two if you need." "Yes." Benjamin paused. "Yes. Yes, I'll take the job." Lila's voice was stronger now. "I'll take the assistant manager position. When do I start?" A small smile crossed Benjamin's face. "Monday, 9 a.m. We'll do orientation, get you set up with payroll and benefits, and I'll introduce you to Sarah Cole. She's going to be the new general manager here. You'll work with her to learn the management side of operations." Lila nodded, her heart pounding. Okay, I can do that." Benjamin stood and extended his hand again. "Welcome to the team, Ms. Johnson." She shook his hand, and this time she noticed the calluses on his palm, the kind that came from years of physical work, not from sitting behind a desk. As she walked out of Harborview with Micah on her hip, the late afternoon sun breaking through the clouds, Lila realized she was shaking, not from fear this time, from something that felt dangerously close to hope. Monday morning, 8:45 a.m., Lila stood in the parking lot of Harborview Diner, wearing black slacks and a button-down shirt she'd bought at Goodwill over the weekend. Her new name tag was clipped to her collar, Lila Johnson, assistant manager. She dropped Micah off at Little Ray's Learning Center, one of the childcare providers in the Employee Relief Fund network. They'd accepted him immediately. No questions about fevers or sick days. The relief of it had almost made her cry in the parking lot. Now she was here, about to walk back into the place that had thrown her out 4 days ago. Her hands were sweating. "You must be Lila." A woman in her early 40s approached, extending her hand. Short blonde hair, warm smile, manager's polo. "Sarah Cole, I'm the new GM here. Benjamin told me all about you." Lila shook her hand. "Nice to meet you. Ready for your first day?" Sarah's eyes were kind but assessing. "Fair warning, Some of the staff are, let's say, surprised by your promotion. I bet they are. And they walked in together. The morning prep crew was already there. Derek in the kitchen, Jessica and 2 other servers prepping the dining room. Conversation stopped when Lila walked in wearing that manager polo. Jessica's mouth literally fell open. You've got to be kidding me. Morning, everyone. Sarah's voice carried across the diner. I'd like to officially introduce Lila Johnson, our new assistant manager. She'll be working closely with me to improve operations here. I expect everyone to give her the same respect you'd give me. Silence. Then Jessica crossed her arms. So, let me get this straight. She gets fired on Saturday for breaking health codes, and now she's our boss on Monday? She was wrongfully terminated by Craig Donovan, Sarah said evenly, who, as you all know, was fired for creating a hostile work environment. Lila is qualified for this position, and she's here to help make this a better place to work. Any questions? More silence. But Lila could feel the resentment radiating off some of them. This was going to be harder than she thought. The first week was brutal. Sarah started Lila on a crash course in management operations, scheduling, inventory, payroll, health inspections, customer complaints, vendor relations. It was information overload, and Lila stayed up until midnight every night reading employee handbooks and operations manuals while Micah slept. But the real challenge wasn't the paperwork. It was the staff. Jessica made her feelings clear from day one. When Lila asked her to help train on the new POS system, Jessica said, maybe ask someone who didn't just get promoted for having a sob story. When Lila tried to adjust the schedule to give everyone 2 consecutive days off, something Craig had never done, one of the kitchen guys muttered, "Must be nice to play favorites when you're sleeping with the boss." Lila ignored it, mostly, but it wore on her. She'd been in their shoes 2 weeks ago. She understood the skepticism. If she'd watched someone else get fired and then come back as a manager, she'd have questions too, so she stopped trying to win them over with words. She showed up at 6 a.m. every day, before anyone else, and worked the floor alongside the opening crew. She bussed tables when they were slammed. She jumped on the dishwasher when the kitchen got backed up. She took the worst shifts, the Sunday morning rushes, the late Friday nights, and never complained. When Derek, the head cook, threw out his back lifting a case of potatoes, Lila noticed he was limping, but still working. "Derek, you need to sit down." "Can't. We're short-staffed." "I'll cover your station. Sit." He stared at her. "You know how to work a grill." "I worked at 3 different diners before this one. I can manage." She spent the next 4 hours cooking while Derek sat on a stool icing his back, watching in disbelief as the new assistant manager flipped burgers and plated orders without missing a beat. At the end of the shift, he pulled her aside. "You didn't have to do that." "Yes, I did," Lila said simply. "You were in pain, and we're a team." Word spread. 2 weeks in, Lila called a staff meeting. Everyone crowded into the back dining room after the lunch rush, looking suspicious. "I know most of you don't trust me yet," Lila started. "I get it. I was fired from here. Then I came back as your boss." "That's weird." A few uncomfortable laughs. "But I want you to know something. I've worked every job in this diner. I know what it's like when the AC breaks in summer and you're sweating through your shirt by 10 a.m. I know what it's like when a customer screams at you over eggs and you just have to smile and take it. I know what it's like when you can't afford to call out sick because you need every dollar on your paycheck." She had their attention now. Craig ran this place like employees were disposable, like you didn't matter. "I'm not going to do that." Lila pulled out a list she'd been working on. "Here's what's changing, starting this week. 1. New anti-fatigue mats in the kitchen and behind the counter. Your feet shouldn't be killing you after every shift. 2. The walk-in cooler door has been sticking. Maintenance is fixing it tomorrow. Nobody should be trapped in there, even for a minute. 3. Employee meals are now a full entree, not whatever's cheapest. You work hard, you should eat something decent. 4. New scheduling system. Everyone gets 2 consecutive days off. If you need a specific day for family stuff, talk to me. We'll figure it out. 5. Tip pooling is now transparent. I'm posting the calculations every week so everyone can see it's fair." She paused, looking around the room. "I can't fix everything overnight, but I'm going to keep fixing things one at a time until this is the kind of place where you actually want to work, not just the place you're stuck at because you need a paycheck." Jessica raised her hand slowly. "Why? Why do you care? Lila met her eyes. Because 6 months ago, I was working at a grocery store where the manager scheduled me for closing shift and then opening shift the next morning, gave me 5 hours between shifts to sleep. When I asked to change it because I had a toddler at home, he told me I was replaceable. Her voice was steady. I know what it feels like to be treated like you don't matter, and I'm not going to do that to anyone else. The room was quiet. Then Derek started clapping, slowly at first. Then others joined in. Not everyone. Jessica still looked skeptical, but it was a start. 3 weeks in, the real test came. A pipe burst in the kitchen at 6 a.m. on a Saturday, the busiest morning of the week. Water everywhere. Grill unusable. Stove flooded. Sarah was off that day. Lila was the only manager on site. She could have called corporate, shut down for the day, sent everyone home. Instead, she called a plumber, got him there in 40 minutes by offering double rate for emergency service, and then rallied the staff. "We're not closing," she announced. "Breakfast menu only, cold prep items, bagels, yogurt parfaits, fruit cups, cold sandwiches. Derek, can you handle that without the hotline?" "Yeah, but people are going to complain." "Let me handle the complaints. Jessica, I need you and Mark to personally explain to every table that we have limited menu today because of the pipe burst, but everything's half price to compensate. Make it sound like they're getting a deal." "Half price?" Jessica looked panicked. "Corporate's gonna lose their minds." "I'll deal with corporate. Right now, we're staying open and we're taking care of our customers." It worked. Customers were annoyed at first, but once they heard half price and saw staff busting their asses to make things work, most of them were sympathetic. Some even tipped extra. By noon, the plumber had the pipe fixed and the grill back online. They'd made it through the breakfast rush. Benjamin called her that afternoon. "Sarah told me about the pipe burst," he said, "and that you kept the diner open with a modified menu and half-price discount." Lila's stomach dropped. "I'm sorry, I should have called you first." "No. You handled it exactly right. That's the kind of decision-making I was hoping to see from you." He paused. "How'd the staff respond?" "They pulled together, even the ones who've been giving me attitude." Lila smiled despite herself. "We made it work." "Good. That's what a team does." After he hung up, Jessica approached Lila at the manager's desk. "Hey." Lila looked up. "Yeah, you could have closed today. Corporate would have backed you up. Pipe burst is a legit reason." "I know, but you didn't. You kept us working, kept us earning tips on the busiest day of the week." Jessica shifted her weight. "That half-price thing probably saved some of our tips that would have been lost if we shut down." Lila met her eyes. "That was the idea." Jessica was quiet for a moment. Then, "I'm sorry I've been a bitch to you." "You weren't a bitch. You were skeptical. There's a difference." "Still, you're actually trying to make things better here. I can see that now." Jessica hesitated. "For what it's worth, I think you're going to be good at this job." Lila felt something unclench in her chest. "Thanks, Jess." By the end of the first month, the numbers started shifting. No one had quit. Customer complaints were down 40%. Employee satisfaction survey, a new thing Sarah implemented, showed marked improvement in morale. And Lila Johnson, the woman who'd been fired for hiding her sick son in a storage room, was being asked by other Hayes Dining Group locations how she'd turned Harborview around so fast. She hadn't done anything revolutionary. She'd just treated people like human beings, like they mattered, like she wished she'd been treated all along. 6 weeks into Lila's new position, Benjamin's assistant Monica called her directly. "Lila, I need to give you a heads up. Benjamin's going to be out of pocket for a while. His mother had a stroke. She's in Boston. He'll be managing remotely, but he might not be as responsive as usual." Lila's chest tightened. "Is she okay?" "Too early to tell, but I wanted you to know in case you need approvals on anything urgent. Route them through me." "Of course. Thanks for letting me know." She hung up and stared at her desk. Benjamin's mother, the woman who'd lived in that car with him, who Thomas Green had given a chance to. Lila knew what it felt like to watch someone you love suffer and feel completely helpless. For the next 3 weeks, Benjamin existed in a fog. Boston Medical Center became his second home. He'd sit in the ICU waiting room with terrible coffee, laptop balanced on his knees, taking Zoom calls with his management team while his mother lay in a hospital bed 60 feet away. Evelyn Hayes had survived the stroke, but the damage was significant. Right side paralysis, speech therapy, physical therapy. The doctors said recovery would take months. maybe years. Benjamin had flown his entire life to Boston, rented a condo near the hospital, and was trying to run a multi-million-dollar restaurant group from New England while his mother relearned how to hold a spoon. It was breaking him. He'd built this company to honor what Thomas Green had done for him and his mother, and now he couldn't even be there for her the way she'd been there for him his entire life. One night at 11 p.m., sitting in the hospital cafeteria, Benjamin's phone rang. Lila Johnson. He almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. "Lila, everything okay?" "That's what I was going to ask you." Her voice was gentle. "Monica mentioned your mom had a stroke. How are you holding up?" Benjamin rubbed his face. "I'm fine." That's what I used to say when Aaron was dying and people asked how I was doing. A pause. "You don't have to be fine, Mr. Hayes." Something in her voice cracked through his defenses. "It's hard," he admitted quietly. "She's my mom, you know. She's the strongest person I've ever known. And now she can't even lift her right arm. Can't say full sentences without struggling. She gets frustrated and starts crying, and I don't know how to fix it." "You can't fix it," Lila said softly. "That's the worst part, when someone you love is suffering, and all you can do is sit there and watch." "How did you handle it? With your husband?" Lila was quiet for a moment. "Honestly, I didn't handle it well. I tried to control everything I could. Doctor's appointments, medications, schedules. I thought if I just worked hard enough, I could somehow keep him alive." Her voice caught. "But you can't control cancer, or strokes, or any of it. All you can do is show up and be present." Benjamin closed his eyes. "I'm trying to run the company from here, but I'm half present for everything. The business is suffering. My mother's care is suffering. I feel like I'm failing at both." "Benjamin." It was the first time she'd used his first name. "You're not superhuman. You can't fight every battle at the same time. You have to pick the one that matters most right now." "The company needs me." "The company has good people who can handle things for a few weeks. Your mother needs you more." Lila's voice was firm now. "Trust your team. Let us carry the weight for a while. That's what we're here for." After they hung up, Benjamin sat in that empty cafeteria for a long time. Then he sent an email to his entire management team. "I'm taking a step back from day-to-day operations for the next month to focus on my mother's care. Monica will handle urgent decisions. Department heads have full authority to move forward on projects without my approval. Trust yourselves, I trust you." It was the hardest email he'd ever sent, but Lila was right. He couldn't fight every battle. Over the next few weeks, Lila sent him texts every few days, not about work, just checking in. "How's your mom doing today? Remember to eat something. Hospital food doesn't count." Micah asked if the nice man who gave me a job is okay. I told him you're taking care of your mom like he takes care of his stuffed dinosaur. Benjamin found himself looking forward to those messages. They were a lifeline in the chaos, a reminder that someone understood what he was going through. One evening, his phone rang again. "Leela." "Hey," Benjamin answered. "Everything okay at Harborview?" "Everything's fine. That's not why I'm calling." She hesitated. "I wanted to tell you something about when Aaron was sick." "Okay." "The hardest part wasn't watching him suffer. It was realizing that all the things I thought were so important before, my career, my plans, what people thought of me, none of it mattered anymore. The only thing that mattered was being with him while I still could." Benjamin's throat tightened. "I spent so much time trying to fix his cancer that I almost missed just being his wife, being present, holding his hand, telling him I loved him." Her voice was thick. "Don't make that mistake with your mom, Benjamin. The company will survive. Your reports can wait, but you only get one mother." Benjamin looked through the cafeteria window toward the ICU wing. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for understanding. I know you gave me a second chance because someone gave you and your mother one, so now I'm returning the favor. I'm telling you to take the chance to be with her while you still can. We've got things handled here." Benjamin took her advice. He stopped answering emails after 6 p.m., stopped taking calls during his mother's physical therapy sessions, started actually sitting with Evelyn instead of working on his laptop in her room. They played cards, slowly because her right hand didn't work well yet. He read to her from the newspaper. He told her about Lila, about Harborview, about how he'd seen himself and Evelyn in that diner 35 years ago. "You did good," Evelyn managed to say one afternoon, words slightly slurred but clear enough. "Thomas would be proud." Benjamin held her left hand, the one that still worked. "I'm just trying to pay it forward, Ma." "You are." She squeezed his hand weakly. "That girl, Lila, she's special." "She is." "Don't lose people like that." "I won't." When Benjamin finally returned to Tampa 6 weeks later, Evelyn was stable and moved to a rehabilitation center. She still had months of recovery ahead, but the worst was over. He walked into Harborview Diner on a Tuesday afternoon, unannounced. The place was transformed, new lighting fixtures, fresh paint. The staff moved with efficiency, but also ease. No one looked stressed or miserable. Customers were smiling. Lila was behind the counter, showing a new server how to use the POS system. She looked up when Benjamin walked in, and her face lit up. "You're back." "I'm back." Benjamin smiled. "Place looks good. We've made some changes. Sarah approved everything, but I wanted to wait until you were back to show you the full report." "Lila." Benjamin held up a hand. "Thank you for what you said on the phone about my mother. You were right. How is she?" "Getting better. Slowly, but better." He paused. "And you were right about something else. I do have good people. People I can trust to run things when I can't be everywhere at once." Lila smiled. "Glad you figured that out." "I need to talk to you about something," Benjamin said. "My office, when you have a minute?" 20 minutes later, they sat in the small manager's office at Harborview. "Your performance over the last 2 months has been exceptional," Benjamin started. "Customer satisfaction is up, employee retention is up, operational costs are actually down because you've been smarter about scheduling and inventory." "Thank you. Sarah's been telling me you've been handling situations that most assistant managers would escalate. You think like an owner, not just an employee." Benjamin leaned forward. "I want to offer you a promotion. Regional manager. You'd oversee 5 locations, including Harborview. Salary jumps to $65,000 plus performance bonuses, company car, and you'd have authority to hire and fire managers at your locations." Lila's eyes went wide. "Regional manager? Benjamin, I've been in management for 2 months. And you've done more to fix Harborview in 2 months than Craig did in 4 years. I trust you, Lila. More importantly, I trust your judgment. I have Micah. I can't travel constantly. You won't be traveling constantly. The 5 locations are all within a 50-mile radius. Most of your work will be here at Harborview since it's the flagship. You'll visit the other sites once or twice a week for check-ins." Benjamin pulled out a folder. "And the Employee Relief Fund childcare benefits extend up to age 12. Micah's covered for years." Lila stared at the offer letter he slid across the desk. "Why do you keep betting on me?" she asked softly. "Because you keep proving me right." Benjamin smiled. "And because when I was at my lowest point, sitting in a hospital cafeteria wondering if I could keep doing this, you called me. You told me the truth I needed to hear. You reminded me what actually matters." He met her eyes. "That's not something you can teach, Lila. That's character. And character is what I'm building this company on." Lila looked at the offer letter. $65,000. Regional manager. She'd been fired from this place 3 months ago, and now she was being offered oversight of 5 locations. "I don't want you to feel like you owe me," Benjamin added. "If you're not ready..." "I'm ready." Lila looked up. "I'm scared, but I'm ready." "Good. Fear means you understand the responsibility. That's a good sign." Lila signed the offer letter. When she walked out of that office, Micah was in her mind. The way he'd looked at her that morning when she'd told him, "Mommy has a really important job now, baby. We're going to be okay." She'd made him a promise, and she was going to keep it. 2 months later, Benjamin stood in the parking lot of Harborview Diner on a Friday morning, watching the sunrise. He'd been back in Tampa for 8 weeks now, and Evelyn was stable in Boston, walking with a cane, speech improving daily, driving her physical therapist crazy with her stubborn independence, just like the woman who'd raised him. The diner door opened. Lila stepped out, coffee in hand, looking surprised to see him. "You're here early," she said. "Wanted to see the morning rush. Haven't done that in a while." Benjamin took the coffee she offered. She'd remembered he took it black. "How are the other locations?" "Good. Really good, actually." Lila pulled out her phone and showed him a dashboard she'd built. Turnover is down across all 5 sites. Customer satisfaction scores are up an average of 23%, and we're under budget on labor costs because I restructured the schedules to reduce overtime. Benjamin studied the numbers. This is impressive, Lila. Thanks. I've been implementing the same changes we made here. Better equipment, fair scheduling, transparent communication. Turns out when you treat people with respect, they work harder. Revolutionary concept, Benjamin said dryly. Lila laughed. Right? Who knew? They walked back inside together. The morning crew was prepping. Derek in the kitchen, Jessica setting up the dining room, 2 new hires training on the register. Everyone looked happy, not fake customer service happy, actually content. Lila, Benjamin said quietly, I need to tell you something. She looked at him concerned. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. I just want you to know what you've built here in just 4 months. This is what I dreamed of when I started this company. His voice was rough with emotion. I built Hayes Dining Group because Thomas Green saved my mother and me when we had nothing. I wanted to create places where people like us could find stability, dignity, a chance. You did that, Lila said softly. No, I built the framework, but somewhere along the way, I let people like Craig Donovan poison it. I got too focused on expansion, on numbers, on growth. Benjamin shook his head. You reminded me what it's actually about. Taking care of people, seeing them as human beings, not line items on a P&L sheet. Lila's eyes were shining. Benjamin, I wouldn't be here if you hadn't taken a chance on me, if you hadn't looked past the desperate woman hiding her kid in a storage room and seen, I don't know, potential, I guess. I saw someone who reminded me of my mother, someone who was doing everything right and still getting punished for it. Benjamin smiled. And I was right about you. Sarah appeared from the office. Lila, quick question about, oh, sorry, didn't realize you two were talking. It's fine, Lila said. What's up? The Springfield location manager just quit. No notice, just walked out. Sarah looked stressed. I was going to handle it myself, but I'm buried with district reports. I'll handle it, Lila said immediately. I'll drive up there this afternoon, talk to the staff, figure out what happened. You sure? That's a 90-minute drive. I'm sure. If the manager quit with no notice, there's a reason. I want to know what it is before we hire a replacement and repeat the same mistakes. After Sarah walked away, Benjamin studied Lila. You know what you just did there? Volunteered for a nightmare. No, you took ownership. You didn't wait for someone else to solve the problem. You saw it and stepped up. Benjamin's voice was quiet but firm. That's leadership, Lila. Real leadership. Lila looked down at her coffee. I just don't want anyone else to go through what I went through. If there's a problem at Springfield, I want to fix it before it breaks someone the way Harborview almost broke me. And that's exactly why you're the right person for this job. That afternoon, Lila made the drive to Springfield. The location was smaller than Harborview, tucked into a strip mall between a laundromat and a dollar store. When she walked in, the staff looked exhausted. She called an impromptu meeting in the back. I'm Lila Johnson, regional manager. I know your GM just quit, and I'm here to figure out what happened and how we fix it. One of the servers, a woman in her 30s with tired eyes, spoke up. She quit because she was working 70-hour weeks and corporate kept telling her to cut labor costs. She couldn't staff the place properly and handle all the management duties. She burned out. Lila nodded. Okay, that's fair. What else? They unloaded. Equipment constantly breaking. Supply orders getting screwed up. No support from corporate when they asked for help. Lila listened to every word, taking notes. Then she said, here's what we're going to do. First, I'm staying here for the next week to cover management until we hire a new GM. Second, I'm approving overtime immediately to get you properly staffed. Third, I'm ordering new equipment for the stuff that's been broken. You shouldn't be working with a grill that only half works. And fourth, I want each of you to write down one thing that would make your job easier. Anything. I'll read every suggestion and implement what I can. The staff exchanged looks. You're serious? Someone asked. Dead serious. I was a server at Harborview 4 months ago. I know what it's like to be ignored when you ask for help. That stops now. By the end of the week, Springfield was running smoother. Lila had hired an interim manager, fixed the major equipment issues, and implemented the same cultural changes that worked at Harborview. When she reported back to Benjamin, he just smiled. "You didn't have to stay there a full week." "Yes, I did. They needed to know someone was actually listening." "Most regional managers would have just hired someone and moved on." "I'm not most regional managers." Lila's voice was firm. "I remember what it felt like to be invisible. I'm not letting that happen on my watch." 6 months into her role as regional manager, Lila's 5 locations were outperforming every other region in the Hayes Dining Group. Employee retention was the highest in the company. Customer satisfaction scores were through the roof. And somehow, despite spending more on equipment and employee benefits, her labor costs were lower because people actually showed up for their shifts and worked efficiently. During the quarterly leadership meeting, Benjamin asked her to present her approach to the other regional managers. Lila stood in front of 20 seasoned managers, most of them older, most of them men, all of them skeptical about the woman who'd been promoted after only a few months. "I don't have a magic formula," Lila started, "but I'll tell you what I learned as a server, as a single mother, trying to keep my head above water, and now as a manager. People don't quit jobs. They quit bad bosses and broken systems. If you want employees to care about your business, you have to care about them first. If someone's struggling with childcare, with transportation, with medical issues, your job isn't to punish them for being human. Your job is to help them find a solution so they can keep working. And if you think treating people with basic dignity is too expensive, wait until you see how much it costs to replace good employees every 6 months." She showed them her numbers, showed them the before and after employee surveys, showed them how small investments in people, good equipment, fair scheduling, listening, paid for themselves in reduced turnover and increased productivity. By the end, half the regional managers were taking notes. The other half were still skeptical, but Benjamin was smiling. That evening, he took Lila to dinner at a nice restaurant. Nothing fancy, just a quiet place where they could talk. "You were incredible today," he said. Lila shrugged. "I just told the truth." Most people know the truth. Very few have the courage to say it in a room full of people who don't want to hear it. Benjamin raised his glass. To courage. They clinked glasses. "Can I ask you something?" Lila said. "Why did you really give me that first chance? The assistant manager job. You barely knew me." Benjamin was quiet for a moment, "Because when I saw you walking out into that rain with Micah, I saw my mother. And I saw myself. And I thought, if Thomas Green were still alive, what would he do?" He met her eyes. "He'd give you the keys. He'd give you a shot. So that's what I did." "I'm glad you did." "Me too." Benjamin smiled. "You know what Thomas told me the day I left for college? He said, when you make it, remember to pass it on. Don't just take what you were given, multiply it." You did that. You built this whole company. "No, I built the company. You're multiplying it." Benjamin's voice was serious now. "Every person you help, every employee you listen to, every broken system you fix, that's the multiplication. That's the legacy." Lila felt tears prick her eyes. "I never thought I'd be sitting here having dinner with the CEO of a company, talking about legacy. 6 months ago, I was hiding my sick kid in a storage room. 6 months ago, you were surviving. Now you're thriving. And you're helping other people thrive too." Benjamin leaned forward. "That's not luck, Lila. That's who you are." When Lila got home that night, Micah was already asleep. Her neighbor had watched him, another benefit of finally having a stable income, being able to afford reliable childcare. She stood in his doorway watching him sleep with his stuffed dinosaur tucked under his arm. He looked healthy, happy, safe. She thought about the nights she'd cried in this same doorway, terrified about how they'd survive the next month, about the eviction notices, the medical bills, the constant grinding fear. And now she had a career, benefits, savings, actual savings, for the first time in years. Micah was enrolled in a good preschool. Their apartment was in a safe building. They had food in the fridge and gas in the car she'd finally been able to afford. Not because she'd gotten lucky, because someone had seen her when she was invisible, had given her a chance when she was drowning, and now she was doing the same for others, passing it on, multiplying it. Lila whispered into the dark room, "We're okay now, baby. We're really okay." For the first time in 4 years, she believed it. 9 months after Lila's promotion to regional manager, Benjamin stood in the conference room at headquarters, looking at a map. Red pins marked every Hayes Dining Group location, 24 diners across 4 states. Green pins marked the locations that had implemented Lila's management model. There were 17 green pins now. Monica walked in with her tablet. The board wants to talk about expansion. They're proposing 8 new locations over the next 2 years. Benjamin nodded slowly. What's Lila's capacity? She's already managing 5 locations. If we expand her region, she'd be stretched pretty thin. Then we don't expand her region. We replicate her model. Benjamin turned to Monica. I want to promote 3 of Lila's GMs to regional manager positions. Train them the way she's been training her staff. Build the culture from the ground up. Monica made notes. That's going to slow down expansion. Good. I'd rather grow slowly and do it right than grow fast and repeat the mistakes we made with Craig Donovan. Benjamin looked at the map. Every location should run like Lila's locations. If we can't do that, we don't open. A year and a half after Lila started as regional manager, she got a call from an employee at the Jacksonville location, one of the diners outside her region. Ms. Johnson, I hope this is okay to call you directly. I got your number from someone at Harborview. It's fine. What's going on? I'm a server here and I'm in a situation. My husband just lost his job. My daughter needs surgery. I can't afford to miss work, but I can't afford childcare either. And the woman's voice broke. I heard you've helped people before. I don't know what to do. Lila closed her eyes, remembering. What's your name? Maria Torres. Okay, Maria, here's what we're going to do. First, you're not going to get fired for missing work. I'm going to talk to your GM today and make sure you have the flexibility you need. Second, we have an employee relief fund that can help with emergency childcare and medical expenses. I'm sending you the application right now. Fill it out and I'll personally push it through. You do that? Yes, because someone did it for me. Lila's voice was firm. You're not alone, Maria. We're going to figure this out together. After the call, Lila sat in her office at Harborview. She still kept a desk there, even though she traveled between locations, and thought about how far she'd come. From the woman hiding her son in a storage room to the woman other employees called when they were in trouble. She picked up the phone and called Benjamin. I just got a call from an employee at Jacksonville, she said. Single mother, medical crisis, about to lose everything. Sound familiar? Benjamin was quiet for a moment. Then, what did you tell her? I told her we'd help, use the relief fund, talk to her GM about flexible scheduling. Good. Benjamin, this is happening more than we realize. People are struggling everywhere, not just at our locations, everywhere. Lila paused. What if we expanded the relief fund, made it more accessible? What if we partnered with childcare centers and medical providers to offer discounted services to all our employees? That's expensive. So is replacing employees every 6 months. So is running understaffed locations. So is watching good people burn out because they can't catch a break. Lila's voice was passionate now. We have the resources to actually make a difference. Not just at our company. We could be a model for the whole industry. Benjamin smiled on the other end of the line. Write me a proposal. Full cost analysis, implementation plan, everything. If the numbers work, we'll take it to the board. Seriously? Seriously. Thomas Green saved my mother with 1 job and a storage room. You're talking about saving hundreds of families. That's exactly what this company should be doing. 6 months later, the expanded Employee Relief Fund launched across all Hayes Dining Group locations. Partnerships with childcare centers, medical expense assistance up to $5,000 per year, emergency housing loans, transportation vouchers, mental health counseling services. The cost was significant. The impact was bigger. Employee turnover across the company dropped to 15%, half the industry average. Applications for positions tripled because word spread. Hayes Dining Group takes care of its people. Local news picked up the story, then regional news. Then a business magazine ran a feature. How one restaurant chain is redefining employee benefits and seeing massive returns. The article featured interviews with employees. Maria Torres from Jacksonville, who was able to keep working while her daughter recovered from surgery. A chef from the Atlanta location who'd been able to leave an abusive relationship because the relief fund helped him find emergency housing. A server from Clearwater who got mental health counseling after a family tragedy and didn't have to choose between therapy and groceries. And right in the middle of the article was Lila's story. Lila Johnson started as a server at Harborview Diner in Tampa, fired for bringing her sick son to work. She was rehired and promoted to regional manager after owner Benjamin Hayes recognized her potential. Now she oversees the employee relief fund that helped save her and is saving hundreds of others. When the article came out, Lila's phone exploded with messages. Her old college roommate, "I always knew you'd do something amazing." Her sister in Texas, "I'm so proud of you." Employees she'd never met, "Thank you for fighting for us." But the message that made her cry came from Benjamin. "Thomas would be proud. I know I am." 2 years after being fired from Harborview, Lila stood on stage at a restaurant industry conference. She'd been invited to speak about employee retention and workplace culture. 500 restaurant owners and managers filled the ballroom. Lila looked out at the crowd and took a deep breath. 2 years ago, I was fired from my job as a server. My 4-year-old son had a fever and I couldn't afford to miss work, so I hid him in the storage room. When my manager found out, he fired me in front of a full dining room and told me I was bringing disease into his restaurant. The room was silent. I walked out into the rain that day with no job, no prospects, and $47,000 in medical debt. I thought my life was over. She paused. But someone saw me that day. The owner of that restaurant saw me not as a problem to be eliminated, but as a person with potential. He gave me a second chance, not out of pity, out of belief that I could contribute something valuable. Lila pulled up a slide showing the before and after stats from her region. This is what happens when you invest in people instead of treating them as disposable. Turnover drops. Productivity increases, customer satisfaction goes up, and most importantly, you change lives. She clicked to the next slide, photos of employees who'd been helped by the relief fund. Maria, who kept her job while her daughter had surgery. James, who escaped domestic violence. Rachel, who got mental health support after losing her mother. These aren't charity cases, these are talented, hardworking people who just needed one break, one chance. Another slide. This one showed Micah smiling in his preschool photo. "This is my son, Micah. He's 6 now. He's healthy. He's happy. He doesn't remember the nights we spent in that unsafe apartment, wondering if we'd have enough money for food. He doesn't remember his mom crying after getting fired." Lila's voice strengthened. "But I remember. And because I remember, I'm committed to making sure no other parent has to make the choice I made between keeping their job and taking care of their sick child." She looked out at the audience. "You all have the power to change someone's life, every single one of you. It starts with seeing your employees as human beings, not just labor costs. It starts with asking, 'How can I help?' instead of 'How can I replace this person?'" The presentation ended. The applause was thunderous. Afterward, dozens of owners and managers approached her, asking questions, asking for advice, asking how they could implement similar programs. One older man, probably in his 70s, waited until the crowd thinned. "Ms. Johnson?" Lila turned. "Yes. I used to own a diner in Atlanta. Retired about 15 years ago." His eyes were misty. "Your story reminded me of something. Back in the 80s, I gave a job to a woman living in her car with her son. Let them stay in my storage room." Lila's heart stopped. "What was your name?" "Thomas. Thomas Green." She couldn't breathe. "You're Thomas Green? Benjamin Hayes's Thomas Green?" The old man smiled. "I didn't know the kid's last name was Hayes until I read that magazine article about your company. But yeah, that was me." Lila's eyes filled with tears. "You saved them. Benjamin talks about you all the time. He built this entire company because of what you did." Thomas shook his head. "I just gave a woman a job. She did the rest. She and that smart kid of hers." He looked at Lila carefully. "And now you're doing the same thing, passing it on, multiplying it. Benjamin told me what you said to him about giving people a real chance. I did say that, and I meant it." Thomas smiled. "Looks like he listened." They talked for 30 minutes. Thomas told stories about young Benjamin, how he'd do homework at the corner table, how Evelyn had worked her way up from dishwasher to manager, how proud he'd been when Benjamin left for college. "I lost track of them after they moved away," Thomas said, "but I'm glad to see that kid made something of himself. And I'm glad he didn't forget where he came from." "He didn't forget," Lila said softly. And neither will I. That night, Lila called Benjamin. You're not going to believe who I met today. Who? Thomas Green. Silence on the other end. Then, what? He was at the conference. He saw the article about the relief fund. Benjamin, he's so proud of you. Benjamin's voice was thick. Is he okay? Healthy? He looks good, retired, living in Florida. He wants to see you. Give me his number, please. Lila sent the contact information. Then she added, the circle is complete. Thomas saved you and your mom. You saved me and Micah. Now we're saving hundreds more. That's what legacy looks like. Benjamin's reply came immediately. No, the circle isn't complete. It's expanding, and it's going to keep expanding as long as we keep passing it on. 3 years after walking out of Harborview Diner in the rain, Lila sat in the same corner booth where Benjamin had sat that morning. It was early, 6 a.m., and the diner was just opening. Micah sat across from her, coloring on a kid's menu while he waited for his pancakes. He was 7 now, thriving in 2nd grade, taking swimming lessons, asking a million questions about everything. Safe, healthy, happy. Lila looked around the diner, new equipment gleaming in the kitchen, staff laughing as they prepped for the morning rush. The smell of fresh coffee and bacon. This place had almost destroyed her. And then it had rebuilt her. Her phone buzzed. An email from Benjamin. Board approved expansion into 3 new states. 12 new locations over the next 18 months. They want you to lead the rollout. Interested? Lila smiled and typed back. Only if we do it the right way. Slow growth, strong culture. Take care of people first. Benjamin's response. Wouldn't have it any other way. That's the only way we know how to build now. Micah looked up from his coloring. Mommy, why are you smiling? Because I'm happy, baby. Why? Lila thought about the answer. About Craig Donovan screaming at her in front of customers. About walking into the rain with no hope. About Benjamin's phone call that changed everything. About Maria Torres and James and Rachel and the hundreds of others whose lives had been touched by one act of kindness that kept multiplying. Because good things happened, she said simply. And now we get to help good things happen for other people. Micah nodded seriously. Like when you helped Ms. Maria. Exactly like that. That's nice. Micah went back to coloring. I want to help people when I grow up too. Lila felt her eyes sting with tears. You will, baby. You absolutely will. Jessica brought over their breakfast. She'd been promoted to assistant manager last month. Pancakes for the boss's kid, she said with a grin. I'm not the boss, Lila said. You kinda are. You run half the company now. Jessica winked. And you're way better at it than Craig ever was. After Jessica walked away, Lila cut Micah's pancakes and watched him eat. She thought about the woman she'd been 3 years ago, desperate, exhausted, terrified, and the woman she was now, confident, stable, making a difference. The transformation hadn't been magic. It had started with one person who refused to look away when it would have been easier to do nothing. One person who saw potential instead of problems. One person who remembered what it felt like to need help and decided to become the help for someone else. Lila pulled out her notebook and started writing. She had 12 new locations to plan for, 12 new opportunities to get it right from the beginning, 12 new chances to change lives, because that's what this job was really about. Not pancakes or coffee or profit margins. It was about seeing people, really seeing them, and giving them the one thing that changes everything, a real chance. Outside the window, the sun was rising over Tampa. A new day, full of possibility, just like Thomas Green had given Evelyn and Benjamin, just like Benjamin had given Lila, and just like Lila would keep giving to everyone who walked through these doors looking for more than just a job, looking for hope, looking for dignity, looking for someone to see them. She would see them, every single one, because someone had once seen her, and that had made all the difference.
Join us to share meaningful stories by hitting the like and subscribe buttons. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell to start your day with profound lessons and heartfelt empathy.